Picking up from where we stopped yesterday, in the book of Judges, we saw the defeat of the Midianites by Gideon. And this chapter starts with us finding out that the Ephraimites were upset with him for not involving them in the fight from the jump, because the Ephraimites fancied themselves as the warriors, and I'm sure they were looking like, and you, Gideon, who are you to have gone to war without letting us know? And I feel like um they were like doubting. Even though they doubted, I'm sure the anger was probably from a place of, but maybe he was trying to take their shine. But his answer soothed their anger when he was like, oh, who am I? He kind of, it was his self-deprecating moment to elevate them, and they were fine. And I was like, yeah, this isn't really good. But then it probably shows, maybe in all of this, there's probably some tension between some of the tribes, perhaps. Or we'll see that, play out later. The heads of the towns of Succoth and Penuel, which are fellow Israelites. I had to go back and I was like, were these people not Israelites? They didn't help Gideon. They refused to feed him and his men when they were tired and trying to cross over to pursue the rest of the Midianites. But they did this because they didn't believe that he could catch Zeba and Zalmunna, who were the head of the tribes that they were going to get. And they were like, oh, why should we feed you? When you capture them, they will feed you, or something like that. And he actually did that. When he had captured them and killed them, he came back and did what he said he was going to do to Sukkoth and to Penuel, where he burnt down their towers and killed the men. Now I was like, yeah, that definitely cemented the fact to me that they were probably, tribal, tensions. And those people, Zebel and Zalmunna, had 15,000 warriors left of the 120,000 that had already been killed after they were scared and confused out of their camps in the valley. So it shows that from yesterday lesson, 120,000 men were killed by Gideon scaring them, and they killed themselves, and then the rest of the clan coming in to help them. Now, after that, obviously, the children of Israel asked him to be king, and Gideon rejected the people's request because he believed that the theocracy the Israelites were, enjoying till then, that's God ruling over them, even though right now they had deviated from it, right? And he urged them to just continue in that, to do the same, to let God be king, because he believed that God was king. But isn't it funny that now the least likely person was who the Israelites were calling upon to be king? How weird was that? Anyway, we now see Gideon go on to make a golden ephod from the spoils of war. That's the earrings from the Midianites, who were Ishmaelites, we found out. Yes, of course we knew, because Midianites were descendants of Keturah, Abraham's concubine. And by making a golden ephod from the spoils of the battle, Gideon most likely had no intention of erecting an idol, but that's exactly what he did. And the more we read about it, we find out that he did that. He built that thing from a place of arrogance and pride, because think about it, someone who was a nobody all of a sudden was someone they were calling to be king, because he knows, even though he might have said he was building it for whatever reason, but obviously the Israelites started to worship it, especially after his death. But we saw that Gideon went off to live what appeared to be a very full and prideful life, because he had 70 sons from many wives, one of which was Abimelech. Oh no, another son, so 71, because he now had the one son from a concubine who was from the town of Shechem. Yes, that same Shechem. And his name was Abimelech. Get this, Abimelech means my father is king. So I'm not quite sure about, I think that Gideon, after maybe the war and everything, it kind of got to his head more than a little. And Abimelech conspired with his people, that's the people of Shechem, to take the monarchy that Gideon and his sons had rejected. And he went ahead to kill all of Gideon's sons on one stone, and hired some bandits and some miscreants to be his people, and ended up being, king. But all the sons that were killed, Jotham remained, Jotham, and on Mount Gerizim, remember Mount Gerizim was the Mount of Blessings. Jotham chose it to give the parable of the trees, and he also pronounced a prophecy against Abimelech, comparing him to the bramble. Now, the bramble, I found out, was like basically weeds, and he was saying, oh, how can you ask the weeds that can give you no cover to be your king? Yeah. Well, his prophecy actually came to pass after 3 years of Abimelech's rule. Jotham cursed him from the Mount of Blessing, irony, and we saw it really come to pass. God sent an evil spirit which caused division between Abimelech and the Shechemites. And just as Jotham had prophesied, Abimelech destroyed the Shechem with fire, and in return, the people of Thebez, a woman specifically, mortally wounded Abimelech, but then he was killed by his armor bearer because he didn't want it to go down in history that he was killed by a woman. He didn't want to be another Sisera. Here's my hashtag getting to know God lesson. God is a God of justice. Abimelech seemed to get away with his evil, but God caused Jotham's prophecy to come to pass. He killed his brothers by a stone, and he died by a stone. That's talk about poetic justice. But in spite of his justice and his wrath, God's love is eventually the main reason why he does what he does. He brings about justice to purify, and so his love always shines through in the end. How great is that? Thank you for joining me today. Tomorrow we'll continue with the book of Judges, and I'll be sharing lessons from Judges 10 to 12. Have you noticed that with this book, you have to actually read it before you come here? Because I realized that my lessons are so short because the stories are so long and so elaborate. And obviously, I'm only going to be sharing the things that stood out for me. So I hope you are getting things that stand out for you too. See you tomorrow.